I know almost all of us like to travel. However, I can assure you VisualPolitik fans, there are some places that are better just knowing through postcards alone. Places where you can easily lose your wallet, your cell phone, or even your life. However, we also know that there are risk lovers among you, people who enjoy venturing into the unknown or even the forbidden. That is why on VisualPolitik, we have taken it upon ourselves to draw up our own ranking of the most dangerous cities in the world. In doing so, we have left out places that are currently experiencing the effects of war. We believe that it would be of little help to talk about cities like Damascus, Kabul, or the current Kyiv. For that, we have plenty of other videos. This ranking has been prepared by region, and we have taken into account various factors, such as homicides, robberies, corruption, incidents of all kinds, and even expectations. And do you know what? The common denominators of these cities are poverty, inequality, drugs, and the lack of opportunities for young people. An explosive cocktail that ends up unleashing violence in many parts of the world. In this video, we're going to see some of the most significant ones. I should just say, by the way, none of them are in Europe, and not because there are no dangerous places here. We could talk about Marseille, Naples, or the Albanian Tropoja. However, this ranking goes to a completely other level. So the question is, what are the most dangerous cities in the world? In what places would you have to be very careful, even to buy a drink? Well, check this out.
From the Indian Ocean to the South Seas.
Coming in at number 3, Yangon. Myanmar, the country that everyone knows as Burma, is a real powder keg. In 2005, Yangon ceased to be the capital, but it is still the main city in the country by far. A year ago, the military staged a coup d'etat, yet another one, formally returning them to power. Since then, the security forces have crushed any protest, and the local currency has lost a third of its value, dealing a heavy blow to the already battered Burmese economy. So, if you're not the victim of a robbery, you run the risk of a stray rubber bullet crossing your path. And you can't even talk about that on social media. Facebook is blocked by the military regime, which continues to tighten its grip.
Myanmar renews plans to curb internet usage with VPN ban.
Ban VPNs? It's clear that we here on VisualPolitik could not be more against this. As William Wallace once said, "They may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom." I've been waiting 2 years to say that. You're all welcome. Ranking at number 2, Karachi. With nearly 20 million inhabitants, just surviving in Pakistan's most populous city is an achievement. Ethnic and sectarian tension can be felt everywhere in the streets. Karachi is located in the province of Sindh, but many of its inhabitants are not Sindhis, but Muhajirs, Muslims from India. They are joined by Pashtuns from the areas along the border with Afghanistan. This has filled the city with Islamic fundamentalists. Even so, the main enemy of all Karachi people is poverty. Violent robberies are frequent in their endless traffic jams. Traffic jams which are sometimes caused by barricades set up by the criminal gangs themselves. The good news is that the authorities are moving to improve this ranking. For example, there's the $163 million, that's 150 million euro, Safe City Karachi project, which plans to install around 10,000 video surveillance cameras with facial recognition technology in the city. It also plans to replace traditional license plates on vehicles with radio frequency identification plates capable of being detected by these cameras. The problem is that Karachi Safe City has already several years behind schedules and has been the source of endless corruption scandals. And watch out, because if you still manage to escape all this, your health is still at risk. Karachi is one of the most polluted cities in the world due to road traffic and uncontrolled garbage burning. The sewage system is horrible, there's no drinking water, and disease-carrying mosquitoes abound. To top it all off, the sanitation services are bad and expensive. So unless you are Bin Laden, there's not much for you there. And coming in at number 1 is Port Moresby. The capital of Papua New Guinea is such an impoverished and dangerous place that when it was the country's turn to host the annual APEC meeting in 2018, attended among others by Xi Jinping, Trudeau, and Vice President Pence, they had to rent 3 cruise ships to host all the delegations in order to ensure their safety. The unemployment rate in the city is over 50%. With a population of 250,000, it is a place where homicide rates are exceptionally high, thanks mainly to the rascal gangs which control large areas. Visitors to Port Moresby are advised not to leave their accommodation after sunset and to avoid walking the streets in virtually the entire city during the day. The rascal are capable of everything from robbing banks with M16 machine guns to attacking vehicles armed with machetes. But wait a minute, because this is not the only award Port Moresby has received. Check this out.
Port Moresby, the world's most dangerous city to be a woman.
Brace yourself, folks. No less than 41% of men surveyed in Papua New Guinea have admitted to raping a woman who was not their partner. And taking into account intimate partner assaults, the Human Rights Watch study puts a figure as high as 70%. And that's not the end of the problems. Witch hunts in which women are accused of sorcery occur frequently and end in torture and the murder of the accused woman. So we can take away the question mark. Port Moresby is the worst place on earth to be a woman.
Memories of Africa.
Coming in at number 3 is Lagos. With more than 15 million inhabitants, this is the second most populous city in Africa and the economic center of Nigeria. However, the lack of security in Lagos is so high that many children miss school for fear of being kidnapped. And no, the police are no help. The numbers are few. They are poorly trained and poorly paid. This leaves way for local thugs, the so-called area boys, gangs of young men who rob houses and carjack vehicles. And then there is the danger posed by the Okada. Okada are motorcycle cabs that provide an inexpensive and fast option to escape the constant traffic jams. The problem is that their main method of doing so is by not respecting the most basic rules of the road, such as driving in the right direction. So taking an Okada is one of the best options if you want to end the day in a Lagos hospital. In addition, the Lagos authorities are considering banning these motorcycle cabs, of which there are an estimated 1 million on the streets, because of their connections that some of their drivers maintain with the corresponding area boys. What is certain, however, is that banning the Okada would aggravate poverty in Lagos, since Nigeria is the country with the largest youth population in the world, and half of them are unemployed and or in very precarious conditions. Rank number 2 is Kinshasa. The capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, once so beautiful to the point of being known as Kin La Belle, has changed so much that its inhabitants now call it Kin La Poubelle, which means Kin the trash can. And as if the accumulated garbage and smelly sewers were not unpleasant enough, the Congolese city is traumatized by the Kulu Nas, a group of young men armed with machetes who rob and kill left and right. A threat aggravated over the last year by the Kinshasa zombies. The streets of Kinshasa have been invaded by a new cheap drug with very potent effects. We are talking about Bombay, a substance made from the catalytic converter deposits of automobiles. It is extracted from old cars abandoned in junkyards and then processed as a drug. After taking the Bombay, the Kulana first become euphoric, at which point they commit all sorts of crimes. But then, these young men begin to move slower and slower until they look like zombies. Since 2020, there has been a further increase in Kulana activity in Kinshasa, resulting in an increase in serious crime, including armed robbery and violent assaults. Once again, poverty is the cause of much of the crime. A large proportion of the estimated 15 million people living in Kinshasa have no steady work or regular income of any kind. And coming in at number 1 is Cape Town. South Africa has reduced its levels of violence since adopting democracy in 1994. But things have changed over the last decade. Violent crime has soared due to a dangerous mix of poverty, guns, and policing that leaves much to be desired. It may come as a surprise to you, but this has been particularly true in a city as touristy and well known as Cape Town, a place where homicides have shot up by 60%. The territories dominated by the gangs are Cape Flats, the marginal neighborhoods designated for the black population in times of apartheid. Gangs such as the Americans, the Numbers Gang, or the Laughing Boys, they rule there. And so on to the approximately 130 gangs to which an estimated 100,000 people in the flats belong. In these neighborhoods, turf battles between gangs are frequent, causing waves of violence that terrorize Cape Town. And where do all the weapons that circulate in the flats come from? Well, pay attention, because they come from the most unlikely places.
Ex-cop gets 18 years for stealing and reselling guns to Cape gangsters.
In total, investigations linked more than 1,000 murders and some 1,500 attempted murders to these weapons alone. And the worst part is that this is not an isolated case. Corrupt police manipulate the judicial records of arrested gang members. The murder conviction rate on the flats is barely 2%. Therefore, in the face of such impunity, it should come as no surprise that street gangs continue to dominate areas now given such meaningful names as Cowboy Town, Taliban area, and the Jungle. Yes, you can visit Cape Town and have a great time, but beyond the luxury hotels and the expensive areas, this is the other reality that is being imposed on the city.
The land of no opportunities.
Coming in at number 3 is San Pedro Sula. Latin America still remains the most violent region in the world. Gang conflict, corruption, and institutional weakness contribute to high levels of violence throughout the region. For years, San Pedro Sula had the undesirable title of being the city with the most murders in the world. This place became an obligatory point of passage for 80% of the cocaine that was trafficked from Colombia to the United States. We are talking about a territory controlled by the Maras.
The Mara Salvatrucha installed cameras in neighborhoods of San Pedro Sula to control the population and the police.
The lack of opportunities continues to encourage young people, some as young as 12 years old, to be recruited by these Maras. For years, Honduras has been trying to cleanse its security forces of corruption and has managed to reduce levels of violence. But there is still no relief in places like San Pedro Sula, where extortion and kidnapping are still the order of the day. Ranking in at number 2 is St. Louis. This is another city that came as a surprise in the ranking, and to which VisualPolitik has already dedicated an entire video. With a mostly African-American population, St. Louis, a city of 300,000 inhabitants in the state of Missouri, suffers the highest rate of violence in the United States. Shootings are frequent and usually occur in the northern suburbs of the city. Gangs are not particularly a problem in St. Louis, but drug trafficking and gun violence are. In 2020, the city broke its macabre record, 262 murders in just 1 year. Of all homicides, only 1/3 are solved due to lack of police. Coming in at number 1 is Caracas. The Venezuelan capital is going through an unprecedented wave of violence, and its 5 million inhabitants endure a constant deterioration of public services due to the mismanagement of the Chavista regime. Less than 1/5 of Venezuelans feel safe walking down the street at night, and police have to routinely search for weapons even on city buses in the poorest neighborhoods. Places like Cota 905 have been the scene of intense shootouts between criminal gangs and police forces that have paralyzed daily life. On VisualPolitik, we already know all too well how the dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro is doing. So too do the Caracas mobsters.
Venezuelan security forces killed El Coqui, alleged leader of a gang that terrorized Caracas.
Mismanagement and hyperinflation have impoverished society and widened the gap between those who have access to dollars and those who do not. In this situation, many have no alternative but to resort to crime. So as you can imagine, greenbacks are highly coveted in Caracas. So be very careful with your wallet. But I know what many of you are thinking. Is that all? Are you not even going to mention Mexico? Well, check this out.
Mexican standoff.
Truly, I sympathize with all of you who are watching us from this fantastic and beautiful country. But if we're talking about violent cities, Mexico does have to get its own section. Year after year, its cities top the world homicide rankings. The country has the misfortune of being located directly between the coca fields of South America and the United States, the largest narcotics market in the world. So, coming in at number 3 is Ciudad Juárez. For years, the border city of Ciudad Juárez became the bloodiest battleground of the Mexican government's war on drugs. This city of 1.5 million inhabitants endured more than 300 murders a month. Extortion, kidnapping, and car theft became endemic. This led to its recognition as the most dangerous city in the world. The fight for territory weakened and fragmented the larger cartels operating in the area, such as the once all-powerful Juárez cartel. But now, the violence is flaring up again. Homicides are on the rise as smaller local cartels are now fighting each other for their share of the crystal methamphetamine business. Ranking at number 2, Acapulco. Remember that this ranking does not only depend on the number of homicides. VisualPolitik fans, in the 1990s, the beaches of Acapulco became fashionable and achieved worldwide fame. But in 2007, the problems began. Violence erupted after the dominant cartel split. The vacant throne was quickly occupied by smaller local groups. A brutal struggle for territory began. That ended Acapulco's prestige as an idyllic vacation destination. But wait a minute, because now the authorities have a foolproof plan to restore its reputation.
Don't write about violence for sake of tourism, Acapulco mayor tells reporters.
Of course, Mr. Mayor. Silencing crimes is the best way to stop kidnapping and extortion. And seeing soldiers patrolling the beaches will surely leave the tourists a lot calmer. The big problem is that impunity knows practically no bounds in this city. And in the absence of a dominant cartel, there are few criminal organizations dedicated to trafficking heroin, produced from poppies grown throughout the state of Guerrero, and distributed from there to the United States. And you know that wherever there are plenty of drugs, there usually are plenty of problems. Coming in at number 1 is Tijuana. Tijuana is perhaps the most dangerous city in the world. The fight against drug trafficking has backfired on this border city in Baja California. The capture of kingpins has left cartels fragmented and fighting among themselves. And Tijuana is proving to be one of its main battlegrounds. The homicide rate has almost tripled in the last 5 years and is 20 times higher than the world average. So many people are being killed that Tijuana can't keep up. Unfortunately, we can only send our best wishes to all of you who are watching for us from all of these cities. And now, we leave it up to you guys. Do you think that any city is missing in this particular top 3 by region? Leave us your comments, and if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like it and subscribe to all of us here at VisualPolitik. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.